Easy, James here. Now in this video we're going to be looking at this. This is the Numark Stereo I/O. It's an analog to digital DJ interface. That all sounds very Ari-dash, doesn't it? Now I went out and brought this simply because I wanted to know if it's any good. I've been doing a lot of videos on time code and just generally using your computer and your DJ setup, but I haven't really dived much into these audio interfaces and which ones are actually any good. So I went out and brought this one. This is one of the cheaper ones that Numark make, and I know a lot of people are kind of on budgets these days, so I thought maybe I'd look at a budget one that you can get that's actually decent. So this is the first one I'm going to try. In the UK this one retails for about 30 quid. Now you can get them a bit cheaper if you go on eBay and order them from China, but I can't really guarantee delivery and that kind of stuff, and also you might get a cheap knockoff fake, so I'd be a little bit careful if you're doing it that way. But yeah, 30 quid I think is a pretty reasonable price for something like this. Now first impressions, when I look at it, it actually looks really good. Like, it's well packaged. Let's have a look at the box itself. Now the packaging itself is actually pretty good. I like the way they've done this little window design thing where you can actually see the product. Actually it's a bit smaller than I thought, and we'll go into that in a minute. When I get it out we'll have a good look at it. But the actual packaging itself is actually quite good. It contains all the information you'd expect, everything you pretty much need. Shows you a picture, examples of how you can connect it up and that kind of stuff. It also says on there records including software. Now it actually says includes recording software, which, let's face it, is probably going to be either Audacity or just a Numark branded repackaged version of Audacity. But you'll probably use the recording software that you use anyway. So but that's good that they chuck something in so that you can use it straight out the box. Now there's also some other stuff on here as well. There's Connecti con senquiliar golad benji di contra altro retu nevia la y transferio al MP3. What the bloody hell does that mean? I don't know. If there's any Spanish people out there, I apologise for murdering your language. I'm sure you could probably read that a lot better than I can. Anyway, so yeah, packaging, thumbs up, pretty good. There's no weird naked Andy Garcias on there or anything. Yeah, you know what I mean if you've watched any of my previous videos. So anyway, let's open it up and have a look inside. Now while we're on the subject of the packaging, there is one thing I do like about this, and that is that Numark have obviously put a lot of thought into the transit of this thing, being chucked around in a warehouse or being in the back of the delivery van. How do I know that? That's how. See, everything in there is properly secured and it fits in there perfectly, and it's secured by the case itself, as you'll see in a minute. I really like that. I think that's brilliant. So well done, Numark. Thumbs up for that one. You've really thought about that, haven't you? Now in the box you get obviously the controller itself, which, as I said before, is actually secured into the box by these little retaining clips here, which are kind of built into the packaging. I love that. I think that's a brilliant idea. So that's the controller itself. We'll have a closer look at that in a minute. They give you a USB cable as well, which again is tightly secured in the packaging. And then underneath this we've got the software and the manual and all that kind of jazz. And that's pretty much all you get in the box. So that's pretty much all you're going to need, really. So you can discard the box now. Now the controller itself, let's have a closer look. Let me just zoom you in a little bit there. Now the controller itself is a bit smaller than what I thought. When I looked at the picture on the website, you'd think it was a lot bigger, but it's actually nice and compact. I like that. Now on one side you've got these are all your inputs, and you've got a line stereo input and a phono stereo input. You've also got this ground stud, so you can ground up your old turntable onto that. On the other side, which I'm assuming is the back, you've got an output, a stereo output, and you've got this little switch, so you can switch between line and phono. As you can see, it's written on there, line and phono. Now on the side we've got this USB connector here and a light. I assume that comes on when it's connected and maybe flashes when there's activity or whatever. And then on the other side we've got this volume dial here. Now I don't quite know what that's for, whether that's for the input volume or output volume, but we'll find out, won't we? So anyway, that's the controller. So it feels pretty well made, it doesn't feel cheap and nasty, and hopefully it works quite well. This is the cable they give you with it, and well done Numark, they actually give you a good quality cable with it as well. This is a nice thick cable, the connectors look quite well made, they're quite tough on there, they don't look like they're just going to break off after a while, so that's good. This is all the, let's just throw you out a bit there. This is all the booklet and CD and all that kind of stuff. The CD has got Easy Vinyl Tape Converter version 7.4. It's got iTunes version 10. Okay, and it's also got the manual version 1.8. There you go. We've got the quick start guide, which just basically shows you, how to plug it all in, that kind of stuff. Safety instructions, all the kind of usual safety guff that they put in these things, warning this thing's got soft edges, it may bruise somebody if you throw it at them, that kind of get me out of court disclaimer nonsense that they put in these things. And that's pretty much it. That's all you get in the box. Right, okay, so I've got my laptop, and what I'm going to do is, this is the first time I've ever had this out of the box, so I'm just going to plug all this in and basically in real time and just, see how this works. My thought is that this thing's probably got some kind of standard controller IC inside it, so Windows is probably just going to install a driver for it. Now the disk might have like an ASIO driver on there, which you're going to want to install if you're going to want to use this thing with Virtual DJ. If it doesn't, then you can just install ASIO for all. I'll put a link in the description for a video where I show you how to install that. So we'll just plug this in now quickly, and we'll just basically see what happens. Probably going to explode. No, probably not. Okay, we have a red light, I hear noise, so let's see what occurs. Now looking in the device manager, this thing is apparently installed. Now I'm ready to go. So now in the device manager, this thing is listed as a USB audio codec. Now my Behringer ones and also one of the Alesis ones I've tried before also comes up as USB audio codec when you plug them in, which kind of backs up my theory that this thing does have just a standard serial AD converter to USB chip inside, probably a Texas Instruments part, and they all pretty much use the same standard controller. But anyway, so let's actually try this thing out. Now I've got ASIO for all installed on this laptop, so I'll just fire up Virtual DJ and we'll see if we can start mapping outputs to this thing. Unable to connect to the audio device, please make sure the device is connected and turned on. Great. Our first technical problem. Right, now I think I know what the problem is here. This is just a hunch, but I've plugged my Behringer one in before, and I think it recognises it as the same controller and thinks that it's the same device. So let's just uninstall that completely, and then we'll scan for hardware changes. There we go. Let's see if that sorts. Aha, right. There we go. So it's installing the driver now. Right, I think that's what it was. Now that probably explains why it never did this when we first plugged it in, and it just completely installed it straight up from the start. So, right, okay, so now it's all installed. If I just go into the Windows sound properties, we can see it's actually come up in the list, and it's set it as a default device. That's pretty common with these things. Usually it does do that when you plug it in. It just assumes you want to use it as your default device. Now I don't, so I'm just going to set my original one back to default. But as you can see, it's in the list, so it's working. If we actually switch this over to phono, we might actually get a bit of noise on that because there's nothing plugged in. So yeah, you can see we've got a little bit of noise there. If I just touch the inputs there, you can see there's a little bit of noise occurring on there. That's good. So what I'm going to do is I'll go and grab a turntable and a time code, and we'll fire up Virtual DJ and give this thing a whirl and see what it's like. Now this thing is now currently just being used as a normal sound card, so you can just go ahead and use this thing with your normal recording software, you know, like Audacity or Acid, or you know, whatever it is you use. But if you're going to want to use this thing with Virtual DJ, then I strongly suggest you download ASIO for All, so you can get the most out of this thing. Looking on the disc, they don't actually give you any ASIO software with it, so I think they're just assuming that you're going to download ASIO for All. Now, I'll put a download link in the description, but yeah, I strongly recommend, if you want to get the most out of this, download ASIO for All. It's a free download. It'll enable you to use that thing with DJ software like Tractor or Virtual DJ or whatever. So I'm going to fire up Virtual DJ, get a deck, and we'll see what this thing's like for timecode. Right, okay, I've got a very basic setup going on here. I've got a timecode vinyl deck, I've got Virtual DJ running, I've got an amp and a speaker. Now basically down here, what I've done is I've just got the turntable running straight into the interface, and the outputs of that interface are just going straight into the amp. So there's no mixer, no nothing like that, just a very basic setup. This is just mainly to demonstrate this thing working with timecode. Now I've got a track queued up in Virtual DJ. It's one of my own tracks because I don't want to get done for copyright, and I'll just show you. There you go, so that's the timecode's working now. Right, now in terms of latency, this thing is absolutely spot on. I think there's about 6 milliseconds, but it's very good. No problems. Now in terms of sound quality, when you normally buy an interface like this, you normally apply the rule, you get what you pay for, and you think, well, it wasn't very expensive, so you're not going to get very good sound quality. But this is absolutely not the case with this one. I think for the price you pay, the sound quality is really good. It's got a good overall frequency response, very clear. It's not quite as loud as other interfaces that I've had before. You do have to turn the volume up a little bit more, but in terms of actual sound clarity, it's great. And I'm actually sad to say it outperforms my Creative Sound Blaster, which I brought from my computer upstairs. And that was a very expensive sound card, so I'm very disappointed in Creative. Now, while we're on the subject of sound quality, another thing that you want to consider with an audio interface like this is noise. Some of the other cheaper audio interfaces I've used in the past tend to be a little bit noisy, especially on the inputs. The ones that have phono inputs, they tend to be a little bit hissy, and sometimes you get power supply noise on the output. This one, not the case. It's actually silent. There's no noise on the input, which I'm very surprised about, because it's very hard, especially with these ones that have got phono inputs, it's very hard to get that much gain out of an input without introducing any kind of noise, especially when you've got a device like this that's running off of USB, and you've got a power supply in the laptop that could possibly be noisy. It's very difficult not to get that noise on the inputs when you've got such high impedance inputs. Right, now just to confirm my theory about what controller IC they've used inside this thing, I'm actually going to open it up now and have a look. Now, if I'm correct, it should be a Texas Instruments part, and it should be a PCM 2902, if I'm correct. So we'll soon find out. That's not, is there a clip? Oh no, I bet there's screws under the things, isn't there? Yeah, screws under here, hang on. They've probably done that to stop people taking it apart, to be fair, but hey, I don't mind. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to do it carefully without breaking it. Oh, upside down. Let's see. And bingo. There we go. BB, which is Texas Instruments. PCM 2902, and that is exactly the same controller that's used in the Behringer units and some of the other ones as well. And it's basically just a stereo audio codec with USB interface built into it. So there you go, my theory was correct. So there you go, again this is the Numark Stereo I/O, and I think from me this definitely gets the thumbs up. This is definitely a pucker audio interface, and for the price you pay, that's what you've got to bear in mind. This thing's not expensive. Now, one thing to quickly bear in mind is, you remember earlier when I was saying about being careful buying these things off of eBay. While I was filming this video, I've actually been online and done a little bit of research. Now, apparently there's a company in Hong Kong that makes these things, a cheap knockoff of these, and they're sold somewhere between the region of, you know, 10 to 15 quid. But apparently they are absolutely rubbish. So be warned, if you are buying one of these things cheap from Hong Kong, be careful that it's not a cheap knockoff. So there you go, I hope the video's been a help. If you've got any questions, leave comments below. This is kind of a first for me, because this is the first time I've ever got one out of the box and had a go of one. And I'm actually really impressed. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to go and buy another one of these and use these in my new timecode setup. And just basically see what they're like, you know, long-term use. Because this was only a short demonstration. I don't know what they're like to live with. So yeah, I'll give it a go and I'll see what they're like, and maybe in the future I'll do some update videos and let you know. So there you go. Hope this was a help. Thanks for watching. Nice one.